Hello. How are you guys all doing? I kind of faded that music off a little early. I was getting a little jumpy there. Hopefully everybody's doing well this evening. I don't know how summer's affecting you guys. It's kind of weird out here in Southern California because we've had a heat wave about a week ago and then mild weather, and then this week we're in like the 90s, so it's starting to warm up again. So I imagine we'll be getting another heat wave, but it was kind of nice for us because we were able to kind of catch up. We got like way bombarded because of the heat wave, and then things kind of calmed down and we were able to catch back up and then try to, get everything figured out. And because when the heat wave comes through, we don't necessarily have time to go, complete every service call like you guys see me try to complete them. A lot of times we might have to go out and, reset a manual reset high pressure control on a walk-in freezer and then just move on and, quote to come back, or when we slow down, come back and put an automatic reset on it, or, that kind of stuff. If necessarily we can't find leaks when we're super slammed, you just kind of get them up and running and then go back and find a leak later. So it's been kind of cool that we've been able to do that and catch up. So let's hope the rest of the summer stays. I mean, I want to stay busy, don't get me wrong, but I hope it's kind of chill because it was kind of crazy when we got that heat wave. The first heat wave we had about a week ago, it hit about 110, 108, I think, or something like that. So it wasn't too bad. Last summer, we broke records and we hit 120 for one day, which was nuts. We'd never gotten that high. I think we'd gotten to 118 before, which was like record breaking. And that's not normal. Our normal for the summer is about 110, 112, in the heat waves typically. So, but hopefully everything's going well for you guys. Trying to, I see everybody there in the chat. I'm going to try to get to a lot of the questions in the chat here soon. So I got a couple things I want to start talking about like I usually do and go from there. Had a couple videos come out since the last live stream, some pretty good ones. I really liked, I had fun doing that makeup air one. Some of these videos are kind of fun for me. That was the one where I had the evaporative cooling section that the pressure control was keeping the evaporative cooling section from working. I haven't even finished that one yet either. I haven't fixed it, I should say. I haven't had a chance to get back there and change that pressure switch, but making these videos is kind of nice because I get to kind of, go back to some basics of troubleshooting, because a lot of times, and this is something that happens for, I know you experienced guys probably already know this, but a lot of times, we go in there using our senses and we might jump some steps, because we kind of have an idea what's going on. We can go in there and listen and we can make some assumptions. So, if I go up there and the condenser fan motor's running, well, I know that I have more than likely have some sort of voltage, so you may jump to the next step and, do some things. But when I make these videos, I try to slow down and as much as possible, try to do things step by step to try to make it a little more simple. And it's been a lot easier lately for me. It is hard for me in general to slow down because I'm a very fast-paced person. But since I have an apprentice working with me pretty much every day of the week, it's kind of nice because I can let him do a little bit more of the work, and then while I'm filming, he's usually standing behind me, so I'm talking to him and, that kind of stuff. So it's been working out kind of nice. I enjoy making these videos. It is kind of therapeutic almost to be able to release them. And like I say in the end of the videos too, I really do like the comments too. And I say it all the time, guys, negative or positive, I really appreciate the comments. Okay. Even if you guys have something to say like, hey, I shouldn't have done it this way, I'm always looking to better myself. So I know there's much better techs out there than I. So if you guys have tips on how I could have done something differently, you're not going to offend me. Throw it in there. Throw it in the YouTube comments. If you don't want to do that, throw it in an email. Send it to hvacrvideos@gmail.com. You can send me a Facebook message. Either way, I'm always looking for feedback, always looking to do better for the next one. And that's kind of how, when we do like what I call construction jobs is like changing out walk-in cooler equipment and stuff like that for us. When I talk to my guys, we always try to, I try to reflect after we do a construction job and think, how could I have done this better? How can we do this faster next time? How can we be more efficient and that kind of stuff? And so that's what I'm always talking to my guys about. And the same thing I think in my head. Every time after I finish a service call, I think, okay, how could I have done that better? Oh yeah, that one trip I went down to the van and I didn't take something down with me, That's how I kind of try to operate. So the same thing goes with my videos and my troubleshooting is I'm always looking for a way to better myself. So please give me that feedback. I'd really appreciate it. So, all right. I see everybody in there. Hey guys, everybody in the chat. There's quite a few of you guys in there right now. Thanks for coming in here. Yeah, California will slide off into the ocean one of these days. So, okay. Let me see. I've got a couple things on my list. Remember, guys, I don't have a moderator in. Oh, wait, no, Justin, you are in here. Dang it. I keep thinking you weren't going to be here, Justin. That's my bad. I think you told me that was next month. I'm in La La Land. Anyways, sorry. So, yeah, if you guys do have questions, put them in caps lock, please, so that way myself and Justin can see what they are. And I'll try to get to them as much as possible. And I'm going to try to get to more of you guys' questions today. Hey there, Isaiah. How you doing, bud? One of the questions that I had, and I'm just going to go quickly through this, is what kind of software we use for invoicing and time management and different stuff, okay, with our company. We use an older software called Intuit Field Service Management. I believe there's another name that it goes by, and it's Corrigo. We have used that software, I would like to say, for at least 7 years now. It's one of those things that it's not perfect. It doesn't do everything you need to do, but I honestly don't think there is a software out there, unless you have it custom made, that's going to do everything that you want it to do. There's a lot of things that we've had to learn how to do and work with and find workarounds to do with Intuit Field Service Management, but it's solid. And I have to say that for the most part, we haven't had too many problems with Intuit Field Service Management. They've improved over the years, little hiccups here and there, and they've worked on it really well. So that is a very good software, and I do like to use it. As far as pricing goes, honestly, guys, I'd have to sit down and look. The person that had asked me was kind of asking about pricing too, I believe. I don't know off the top of my head the pricing. I know that we get like 2 employees free, 2 login users or something like that, and then you pay for every additional user or something like that. And I know that we're, if I had to guess off the top of my head, we're probably couple $100 a month or something like that for our software, but it does invoicing. It syncs with QuickBooks. It does all kinds of stuff. So it works well for us. So that's Intuit Field Service Management. The next one, I kind of wanted to cover something. I get a lot of questions in the chats and in the, okay, I see some good questions coming in, so I'll get to those. I get a lot of questions about these jobs that I do where I rebuild a package unit or whatever, and then people want to know exactly how much it costs because they're curious how much the customer spent on that stuff. It's one of those things, guys, I'm not going to share how much I price things, okay? I don't mind sharing the hours that I quoted jobs for, and then you guys can kind of try to figure it out on your own, but I'm not going to share the pricing at which I'm charging my customers. Just like I mentioned in the last stream that, I don't want to reveal my customers' locations to protect them. I also don't want to reveal any pricing, okay? But, if you guys have personal questions or you want to get more in depth, some things that maybe I don't want to put in a public forum, you're more than welcome to send me emails and I might give you a little bit more information. But like I said, I'm not going to give you my exact, this is how much I charge the customer. This is, what my markups are and stuff like that. I'm not really going to share that on a public forum. So I'm going to go ahead and get to a couple of these questions. Let's see. How many people work for me? So we have, let's see, I have to count right now. We have myself. So we have 4 service trucks rolling on the road right now, and that's including me. So we're a small company. I also have an apprentice riding with me. And then we have an office manager that comes into the office, and she works 3 days a week. And then my dad works in the office too. So 4 service trucks out in the field, and then 2 support staff in the office. And those 4 service trucks, one of those is me. So I'm out in the field all day long, and I try to stay in the field as much as possible. But typically, it's best if I get in the office at least 1 day a week to try to work out some quotes and different things. So, okay, just kind of going up here through the questions and trying to catch out. What type of megger do I use? Honestly, I do not have a megger in my arsenal. I haven't really had a use for a megger. I've gotten by without one for a long time. I've contemplated buying one, but a lot of the research that I've done, meggers are good, but especially when it comes to scroll compressors, Copeland really doesn't recommend using a megger for a one-time diagnosis. Copeland recommends on a scroll compressor that using a megger or a mega ohm meter is to be used over a time period and analyzing data as a trend. They don't want you to just put it on there one time and condemn a compressor, because there's a lot of things that can affect a megger, such as moisture in the system, That can give you false readings and different things. So I personally don't use a megger because I just haven't had the need for one. So, but that also goes for, the meggers that you can buy, or mega ohm meters that you can buy from the supply house. You want to be very cautious about those, because if you have a very moisture laden system, it can give you some false readings on your mega ohm meter, so you want to be cautious about that stuff. Let's see. I saw a couple other things in here. Right on, Isaiah. I see that you said you got the new S-Man. That's really cool, bud. Refrigeration technology should make sunblock. That's a funny one. All right. Okay, I think I got to the questions there. I'm going to go ahead and go back down. If I missed your guys' questions, throw them in again in caps lock, guys. And best tools for a beginner in HVAC. Really, first off, if I would highly suggest, if you don't already have a job, you probably don't want to go buy a ton of tools, okay, until you actually start your job. And the reason why I say that is because you're going to come to the job with a giant tool bag that's weighed down with a bunch of tools, and your senior mechanic or whatever is going to look at that and tell you, dude, you need to get rid of half of that stuff. You're not going to use it. So, it's okay if you buy a meter or something like that, but I would wait until you start working with someone. Now, as far as if you're already working, really you want to buy the best tools that you can afford. Okay. You typically don't want to buy, you don't want to skimp on certain things, such as your meter that you're going to be testing voltage and amperage and stuff like that with. You do not want to buy the cheapest meter. Hey, thank you very, very much. Fali, I don't know if that's how I pronounce your name, but thank you very much for that super chat, and I'll try to get to your question here. But yeah, so you want to buy the best tools that you can for your budget. You don't want to kill yourself, but at the same time, you don't want to short yourself, okay? And you don't want to skimp on an electric meter. You want to buy a quality electric meter. There's a lot of opinions out there. Probably the best meters, of course, everybody will probably agree that Fluke is on the top of the list as a great meter. I carry a Fluke in my van, but I don't carry it as my everyday carry. My personal everyday carry is a Fieldpiece SC660, and that's their fully loaded clamp meter. That's just my choice. I like the features that meter has, and it's accurate enough for what I'm doing. But, there's other meters, depending on what you're working on, that are more accurate for what you need to do. So you want to be cautious about that. And again, I would reach out to your senior mechanic and or the company you're going to work for and ask them what kind of electric meter they recommend that you get. Because they're going to have some good insight on what works for them in their field. So, but just don't skimp on the tools that can, protect your life, such as a meter and stuff like that. Okay. As far as hand tools go, just whatever you can afford. I personally am not a fan of buying the cheapest hand tools in the world. I like Klein screwdrivers. I like some of the Milwaukee stuff. So it really just depends, but I'm not going to typically go to Harbor Freight and buy most of my hand tools because I don't need them to break while I'm using them. At the same time, I know a lot of people that swear by some of the tools from Harbor Freight. So, to each their own on that one. All right, I'm going to keep going down through the list here. Let's see. See what else I'm going. Damon Abetz, you said, how do I choose what company? What do you mean by that, Damon? Do you mean what company to go work for? Give me some clarification on that question, and I'll try to get to it. Now, the question that came in on the super chat, it says, a two-stage carrier unit, are both stages connected? How do they work? I kind of need some more context to that question. I believe your name is Fali, if I'm pronouncing that right. But yeah, a typical two-stage carrier package unit, is controlled by the thermostat, and the stages are not connected except for, they might share a common condenser, but the condensers are piped separate. So the condenser may look like it's common, but it's actually two separate stages. But I kind of need some more context on that question there. Okay. Isaiah, you said use the Klein backpack. That's really cool, man. I'm not a fan of the Klein backpack, but I know a lot of people that do like them. So good, man. I'm happy you like it. Have I worked with the Bosch inverter heat pumps yet? No, I have not. I have not done any of the Bosch systems. Again, I don't do much residential, guys. So if I was to do, any residential, it'd really just be on family and friends. But I really don't. So, okay. Have my guys organized yet? You mean as in have they gone union? Is that what you mean? Knock it off. Have you worked with the Bosch? Okay, so I'm going through that one. So, all right, I'm going to address some other topics that I have on my list right now. So this is another one, and this is something that goes with, and I've been talking about with the apprentice that's riding with me right now too, is, when I'm going to do a service call, I really try not to overthink that service call on the drive over. It's really easy to like already think that you have it diagnosed by the time you get there, and then you're like totally in the wrong direction. I kind of approach every service call with a clean slate. Granted, I do have some things, like I said in the beginning of the stream, that I might, make some assumptions. When I walk into that service call, the first thing I do every single time is I walk up to the manager, I shake their hands, his or hers. I say hello, ask them how everything's going, try to make some small talk, and then, ask them what the problem is, what's going on. And then I try to ask them, excuse me, my nose is itching like crazy. And no, I'm not a Coke fiend, okay? So I ask the managers, how's everything going? What's the problem? How long has it been happening? What are the symptoms? And then when they tell me the problem, I might ask them some questions related to that. Even if I know what's going on, I still make that small talk, okay? That little bit of small talk. And then, I walk up to go diagnose whatever I'm going to diagnose, and I kind of start from scratch, okay? And I'm going to start from square one and start checking things out, moving down the line, and I'm using my senses, guys. Those headphones are not in my ears. I can't stand when people troubleshoot with headphones, okay? Because I need to be listening. I need to be walking up to the unit, and I need to be listening to it, listening to the motors run. In my opinion, headphones are not a good thing because you can't hear things, okay? If you're listening to music while you're trying to troubleshoot, it's going to, in my opinion, create some problems. So, every once in a while I'll have a job site radio if I'm doing a construction job or something like that, but I'm never going to walk around with headphones in because I find that to be a major safety hazard. So, but yeah, I approach each call, with a clean slate. I'm not going in there completely diagnosing it before I get to the call because, like I said, in my opinion, that can lead you down the path the wrong way. You can get there and think, okay, it's got to be this, and then you just, one site, what's the right phrase? You're going in there with something on your mind and you're ignoring other things. So I try, and again, I'm not perfect, but I try to start clean every single time on every single service call. So, how do I schedule training with the new tech during the busy season, Jeffrey? So the new tech basically is riding with me 24/7. So, I've taken it upon myself to go ahead and take him as an apprentice, and he just rides with me and he learns. Occasionally I get to bill for him because I try to take on jobs that might require two people, but for the most part I'm not billing for that new tech's time. So he's riding with me, I'm paying his wages, and we're really not making any money off of him. So he's able to just observe. Sometimes I have time for him to try to troubleshoot some things, but then sometimes he has to step back and just watch me, and then we'll reflect on it or talk about it when we're done. So, okay, let's see. What is the headphone brand? Are you talking about the ones that I'm wearing, Mr. Johnny Boy? I'm wearing Audio-Technica headphones. I'm going to do a video because I've had, I don't know if it was you, Johnny, I think, or someone else had asked me about my video equipment and stuff like that. And I'll do a video, guys, breaking everything down, what I use, how I use it, what my office setup is like, and what softwares I use to do my videos. So that'll be coming up soon. And also, tentatively, I'm going to be releasing another How We Live the HVACR Life video series that I'm doing with my wife. I'm going to be tentatively releasing another one, I think this Wednesday. This is the one where we're going to talk about, kind of dive into how we've dealt with my anxiety and my anger issues, and then how my wife's health issues kind of played into everything. So we've got that episode. I'm planning on, I need some more editing with it, and everything goes well, I'll release it Wednesday morning. So let's see. Microchannel condenser coils. What cleaner do I use? I use the Hvacr heavy duty cleaner. It's aluminum safe, so it's safe for microchannel coils. It doesn't etch the coil. It doesn't brighten the coil. Okay, so what that means, if you guys don't understand, when you're cleaning a coil, dude, my allergies must be kicking in because my nose feels like it's starting to itch like crazy and run. Gosh, man, I don't know. It's like a nervous tick or something that I get where my nose will start to itch. Anyways, I use the Hvacr heavy duty condenser coil cleaner by Refrigeration Technologies. That's a great cleaner. It's very safe. It's not harsh. And if you guys don't know, like some of the other cleaners that make the coil all shiny and bright, when they're making it shiny and bright, they're actually eating the top layer of the aluminum off. So you got to be very, very careful with some of those really, really heavy duty cleaners. They can really, really etch that coil and damage some things. So I don't always use the Hvacr cleaner, because one of the problems about the Hvacr cleaner, and that's made by Refrigeration Technologies, is that it's not as readily available as new Calgon products. New Calgon is in almost every supply house, right? You see it everywhere. And it's super easy to go to a supply house for me and say, I need 4 cases of new Calgon because I'm going to do a big AC cleaning job, you know? It's very hard for me to find a supply house that has at least 1 case of the Hvacr heavy duty cleaner in stock. I've heard that some Johnstones are starting to supply them, but where I get my Hvacr cleaner from is I'll usually order it from True Tech Tools, and or I can have my supply houses bring it in. So I've had my local supply house, Allied Refrigeration, bring in some of the Refrigeration Technology stuff, but it's special order. They typically don't stock them on the shelves. So but I think the more popular that it gets, the more we're going to see it being stocked on shelves. And I think that's a good thing, because those guys over at Refrigeration Technologies seem to make some good products. I have no affiliation whatsoever with them. I just like their products, guys. So, okay, I'm going to go down here and see what I'm missing here. Okay. Yeah. In the Hvacr stuff, like my Allied is the only supply house I think that stocks it. You'll occasionally see the Nylog by Refrigeration Technologies in majority of the supply houses, but I think some of the United Refrigeration stock some of their stuff too. But I'm going to get into another topic here that is just a pet peeve of mine, guys, and I've talked about this before, is impact guns. So I am not a fan of using an impact for majority of the stuff out there, okay? In my opinion, and this is just my opinion, most people don't know how to use the trigger on an impact, and they don't know how to let off the trigger. And when you hear that clicking sound of the clutch disengaging, the tighten it down. Actually, it's not the clutch on an impact. That's actually like the hammer, but that's not good, especially when you're taking screws out of a panel. That drives me nuts. We have an epidemic of more panels being stripped out, the screws on panels being stripped out in the last 5 years than we ever have in our trade. You guys, and for you younger guys, it's probably hard to understand this, but you know, when I was coming up, a drill, a cordless drill at that was very hard to come by, and they were very expensive. The 2 cordless drills that were the most popular were the Makita, the big giant green one with that giant green battery, and then also the DeWalt's, but they were heavy, cumbersome things. You couldn't keep them in your tool bag. You had to you had to rope those things up onto the roof in the case, and they were super heavy. So it was very rare that we would actually use a cordless drill. Then, you know, as things got cheaper and cheaper, they started to get more and more popular. So we used to take panels off with, a 5/16 nut driver. That's what we used to carry. We didn't carry, cordless drills in our bags. And so if you were taking all the panels off of a unit, you were using a 5/16. And so it was very rare that you stripped anything out. But nowadays you can go buy almost any carrier package unit, and there's probably 20 holes because someone's drilled a new hole, because when they drilled the new hole, they stripped it out and they stripped it out. They stripped it out, and they constantly strip them out. So that drives me nuts. So in my opinion, impacts shouldn't be used. Now, I know that there's some new technology that Milwaukee has that I think you can program the thing to have less power, different stuff like that, and that's cool. But, I'm a fan, if you're going to use, a cordless drill, I'm a fan of using a normal screw gun and or drill that has a actual clutch on it. And you set the clutch to like number 4 or number 5, and you put the screw in the panel, and it starts to, clutch basically when there's any tension on that thing. So you don't strip everything out. So that was a question. Someone had asked me about which one they should buy, an impact or a screw gun, and an impact serves a purpose. If I'm going to use an impact to do heavy duty work, like if I'm lagging condensing units down to 4x4s, if I'm tightening bolts, I'll use an impact, but I use it in a certain situation. I don't use it for an everyday. Okay. And also too, for me, it's kind of ridiculous to have to buy a special drill bit to put in an impact. I think that's silly when you can have a normal screw gun that doesn't have some silly drill bit that's expensive, to try to use it. So, okay. That is okay. Let's see what else. Yeah. And so I like that idea, Bill, that you can reduce the torque, and I wish that people would use that, because I even find people taking their cordless drills up or screw guns and not using the clutch either and stripping out the screws. So it's not always just the impact. I think it's just people don't know. They just don't care. is what it is. I mean, bottom line, I find people all the time just, you know, trying to screw things in. And it's like, guys, come on. You know, let's not strip everything out. So, so your question is, how do you calculate the load of a walk-in freezer? And also, why does the supply house sometimes count the compressor with horsepower, sometimes with BTUs? Well, most refrigeration equipment is rated in horsepower. It's I don't know the technical answer for that, but you know, you have a 2-horse, 3-horse condensing unit. But then also occasionally they'll talk about the tonnage. As far as how to calculate the capacity or the required capacity of a walk-in freezer, you're going to take, you know, basically the diameter, the height, the width, and the depth of the inside of the box, the space that's being refrigerated, and then you're going to do a heat load calculation. I would highly suggest that you look into a software program. You can go to Russell Refrigeration. I believe their software program is called RustBox, and then I believe Trenton has a free software too. There's a couple refrigeration manufacturers that have load calculation softwares, and they basically help you to do that. And that is something that I've already talked about doing a video on too, basically how we use the software, because I do load calculations quite often. And, you know, I typically don't pay attention to the horsepower of the equipment. I'm usually looking at the BTU, the output BTU of the equipment, and then, you know, sizing it basically by the BTUs that it can put out at certain temperatures. So I would highly suggest that you send me an email and remind me about that one, and I'm going to try to work on making a video. So my email is hvacrvideos@gmail.com, and I'd be glad to make a video about, you know, how to do load calculations on walk-in freezers and walk-in coolers. And there's a lot of things that go into account, the type of product that you're keeping in there, how many times the door is being open, how many lights are in there, you know, that kind of stuff. So let's see. Should you go with analog or digital defrost clocks? You know, I'm old school, and I haven't jumped on the digital bandwagon yet, and I'm going to tell you why. It's because I don't know how to use them. I can install an analog defrost clock, and it's really easy to just turn the dial and not have to think too hard. So it's because I'm being stubborn. That's all that it is. I'm comfortable with the analog clocks, and I just haven't jumped to the digitals yet. I really need to make the jump to the digitals because there's a lot of benefits with the digitals, but there's also some cool things about analog clocks because you can just see them, you know, and it's not just in the processor. But I realize I need to make the jump. But which one's better? I'm not going to say either one's better. I think that each one has its purpose. You know, I use a Graslin defrost clock for situations where I don't have blowing sand. I use a Paragon electromechanical defrost clock in situations where I have blowing sand, because the Graslins get gummed up and the Paragons tend to do a little bit better because they're actual gears and it's not little plastic gears. The Graslins are plastic gears. So I don't have any experience really with the digital ones. I have been using the Ketatherm Temp plus Defrost products a lot lately. They're temperature controllers that have built-in defrost. I've been really liking those. Actually, I randomly got one in the mail yesterday from Ketatherm for free, and it said like summer promotion. And I started doing some research, and as best as I can tell, it's because I guess they have like a promotion. If you buy like 4 or 5 of their products, you get one free or something like that. I didn't even fill out a claim form. It just came in the mail to me. So I'm assuming my supply house filled it out for me. So, but that was kind of cool. So they got some kind of promotion where if you buy so many, you get one free or something like that. Why do commercial AC units have vents on them? Mr. Johnny Boy, what do you mean by that, bud? Do you mean the outside air dampers? I'm going to wait for you to re-answer that one here. There you go, Mr. Ice. Analog clocks just work. And it's a stubborn thing for me just because I've been using them for so long that I just deal with it. So, Mr. Johnny Boy, yeah, give me some context on that. Are you asking about the outdoor air dampers on the AC units? So, usually spending so many years in the trade, you just know, but oh, okay, I see what you're saying there, prime time. Yeah, I've always used the software to double check, and I don't lean on the supply houses. I usually do my own load calculations. So, Jeffrey Arnold, thank you very much, man. I really appreciate it, dude. That's super awesome. Do you think using smart probes are considered invasive or non-invasive? That's invasive. It still is invasive. You know, the official definition of non-invasive is just using temperature clamps. And but typically you have to. So the way that I would think would be proper to use a non-invasive system is when you do a startup on a system, you commission it and you set benchmarks. Okay. When I did the startup, the static pressure, when we're talking about an RTU unit, okay, the static pressure was at this, the total external static. The you know, the what do you call it? The condensing temperature over ambient was this. The, you know, delta T was this, and all these different numbers. And then you have something to reference back to benchmark. So then at that point, you know, a year down the line, if nothing has changed except for maybe a dirty condenser, you can just put temperature clamps on there and you can say my, you know, discharge air temperature coming out the condenser, the heat that's being rejected is this temperature, you know, and you can kind of get some formulas. So smart probes are still invasive. They're definitely better than putting on full-on service gauges, but non-invasive would be just using temperature clamps. So, and if you're like referring to like measure quick, that's what they mean by that. What is the best donut shop I hit up? The best donut shop I hit up? That's a good question. I don't know, dude. You know, one time when I was a kid, this is totally not what you were asking me, and I know you were just joking with that. When I was a kid, I used to go see my grandmother, and she was in a nursing home, and I was like 16, and I'd drive down there, and she was only coherent in the morning because she had like dementia and stuff. So I would swing by the donut shop on the way, and she liked plain donuts. And I have to say, if you could ever get a plain donut with nothing on it, but it has to be fresh, like I'm talking still hot out of the fryer, it's the best thing in the world, a plain donut. They're amazing. They taste nothing like a plain donut after it's been cooled off. Plain donuts, when they're cooled off, taste like dirt. So, Mr. I, okay, so wait, let me see. Okay, the U in RTU stands for unit. Stop saying rooftop unit. Damn it. RTU unit. I say RTU unit, which is even more stupid, right? Rooftop unit. That's funny. My bad. Okay, let me see if I'm missing any questions. What's the best donut? Okay, so I already got to that one. All right. Do I think using smart probes? Okay, so... yeah, exactly. Okay. So what do I require my new hires to supply for their truck? And what do you supply for the techs? So as far as our techs goes, we supply all the big stuff. I want them to bring a set of gauges. I want them to bring, as they get to be more of an advanced tech, I'd like them to have 2 or 3 sets of gauges, you know, at least 2 probably. But we expect them to bring a cordless drill and their tool bag and basically hand tools. And then I supply torches, vacuum pumps, recovery machines, the big, giant, expensive stuff. If I want them to carry a fancy, you know, whatever, compressor analyzer or some fancy tool or something like that, we'll supply that big stuff. We supply leak detectors. We supply all the materials they need. We'll supply a rolling cart, ladders. That's all on us, and they just bring their hand tools essentially. So, what's the comment on your back while used for? I don't know what you mean by that, Carter Carls. I don't know. Krispy Kreme? Nah, I don't like Krispy Kreme, man. That stuff's too sweet. I can't handle the sweetness of a lot of that stuff. It makes me sick. So, let's see. See what else I'm missing. Whataburger versus In-N-Out. Never had Whataburger. In-N-Out, I've grown up eating it to the point that it's like old for me, right? But I still like In-N-Out. But I just discovered something. You guys ever watch that burger show? It's produced by the people that make the show Hot Ones. And it's got that big giant dude that eats burgers all the time and he makes them. So anyways, if you don't watch him, check it out. It's called That Burger Show, I think. And it's on YouTube. But they just like blew my mind when they told me this really cool thing. So if you go to In-N-Out, you can they have these little yellow banana peppers, right? These little chilies. And I usually always ask for them. And they come in a little baggie and you eat like 3 of them. If you go in the restaurant, they're in like a little bucket and you can grab them. You can ask for those to be chopped up and put in your burger. That just blew my mind. So my favorite burger at In-N-Out is a regular cheeseburger with grilled onions but fried mustard. So basically they put mustard on the patty while it's still being cooked, and then they flip it over and it fries it cooks the burger in mustard. And then I do chopped chilies on it, and that just blew my mind. I found that about 3 weeks ago, and it's like, oh, it's so good. And those little chilies are hot too, so try that one out. But yeah, I've never been to Whataburger. Okay. How do I like my new Fieldpiece gauges? Are they better? Yeah, they're a definite improvement. So the S-Man 480V is what I have. They're a huge improvement over the S-Man 460s. And when I say huge improvement, the biggest difference is they basically redesigned the gauges. They moved the temperature, the thermocouple ports into the back. They have a dedicated outdoor air port for outdoor air temperature. And the coolest thing about them is they have the wireless feature. So they work with the job link probes. And you can now link them with the app. So you can open the Fieldpiece app and you can link them with it. It's really cool. So I like the new manifold. I think it works really well. Yeah, good stuff. So what else? Let's see. Okay. Chilies. Yeah, the chilies are the bomb. So have I ever used the Fieldpiece micron gauge? You bought one today. Couldn't say no. Yeah, I was that was one of the things that the first things that I beta tested for Fieldpiece was I think it's the SVG3, I think is what it's called, the Fieldpiece micron gauge. It's cool. I mean, it works. I don't really got nothing bad to say about it. I'm more of a fan of the AccuTools Blue Vac whatever gauge. That's kind of my favorite go-to right now. But the Fieldpiece one works fine. Just make sure that you keep the sensor cleaned. That's the only thing. You got to use alcohol to clean it every once in a while. But yeah, it works. Okay. Let's see what else. All right, I'm going to get to another one of my topics right here. You guys got more questions, throw them in there. Make sure you put them in caps lock. Okay, so I have a question for you guys. For you guys in the chat, this is mainly, I want to get your guys' opinion on this. So, my YouTube channel, I've thought about doing certain things, but then I've talked myself out of it, such as, when this new tool came out, I'm going to not name which one, but there was a new tool that came out and it was before it became popular. And I reached out to the manufacturer and I said, hey, I'm really interested in checking that tool out. How would you guys like to send me one? And I'll show it on my YouTube channel and all this different stuff. Right. And then I thought about it after they said, yeah, we'll send you one. Great. And then I emailed them back like an hour later and I said, you know what? I take that back. I'm not going to take a free tool. I kind of had like a change of heart. I didn't want to take a free tool. I wanted to buy it myself because I felt like I would have more, I don't know, whatever. I just felt like I'd give a better, honest opinion. But at the same time, that tool, I ended up buying the tool and I still haven't really done any reviews on it. And I don't think my channel is really, it just doesn't seem like a tool review channel. I kind of like where it's at in being educational videos, and I kind of don't want it to be a tool review channel. But I mean, for you people in the chat right now, what do you guys think? I mean, would you like to see tool review stuff? I've even contemplated just making a separate channel just for tool reviews, and it would just be my style. Like, I'm going to review these tools. How do you guys think in the chat? What do you think about that? Do you think that I should, because there's all kinds of tools I want to talk about, but I don't know. I like my channel the way that it is right now, and I just didn't want it to become a tool review channel. I figured that maybe I would make another channel and have that just for tools. What do you think? Let me know what you guys think in the chat. So, Tim Bosco, you said, what's the meaning of my name HVACR? Heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and refrigeration. It's an acronym for what we do. So I'm an HVACR technician. So HVACR videos. Rocky Mountain HVACR. I will say it again. I will say it every single time. New text for refrigeration. Order the book, Commercial Refrigeration for Air Conditioning Technicians by Dick Wers. If you look in the show notes of this video will post later tonight. There will be an Amazon link for that book. That is a great book. It's a great resource written by Mr. Dick Wers. All right. Okay. I think outlaws need to give free tools. Don't be a tool. I got it. No reviews, maybe on it. See, and that's kind of how I'm thinking, guys. I'm thinking more of a different channel. Yeah. That's kind of, I didn't want to cloud the channel with tools. I'm feeling that way too. You guys are saying that, and I've kind of already thought that way. So I already actually have another channel. It's called HVACR Tools. I don't even think I have any subscribers, but I've had it for like 2 years. So I think maybe I'll start. I think I have like one video on there. And I think I'll start posting videos on there, and when I start posting on it, I'll share it. But yeah, the channel title, like I said, you probably won't even be able to find it right now because it's nothing, but it's just called HVACR Tools. I don't even think I have any artwork or anything on there. But yeah, maybe I'll start doing that. So my thought is as far as tools go, I'm kind of torn on that one too. My thought, do you guys know who Leo Laporte is? Leo Laporte, the tech guy. He's like a computer guy. He's been around forever. And I really like the concept of how he does things. And his concept is that I know in the beginning he accepted free stuff, but he doesn't accept anything free anymore. He buys everything himself. And that's kind of like how I wanted to go. I kind of wanted to be the person to say, no, I'm not going to accept free tools. And I think that's the route I'm going to go. I think that if I do take off with the HVACR Tools or whatever channel, that I think it's going to be only tools that I've purchased, and I won't accept anything for free. And I feel like, in my opinion, I would trust someone's opinion on that. Now, the next thing too is that it's going to be my style of channel. You know, the way that I run my YouTube channel that we do right now, the HVACR videos, is I've had, you know, like a channel sponsor before, not the one that I have now, but I've had another channel sponsor that like wanted me to change titles and different things. And no, that's in, you know, so I'm going to do it my way. And I think that I'm going to do it where I don't take anything for free and I only purchase everything. And then that way you guys get an honest review. So that means I won't review everything. It'll just be, you know, whatever I thought was worth buying and that would benefit me. So I think that's what I'm going to do. But again, that's going to be on a separate channel. It's not going to be on this one. This one's just going to stick to whatever I do. And you guys see, I have casual mentions every once in a while about a tool that I like or something like that. But yeah. Is Justin still here? I think he is, Isaiah. I think so. Let's see. Would you create another channel about tools? Call it HVACR Tool Review. Mr. Johnny Boy. It's called... Whoa, holy moly. Julio Mendez, thank you very much, man. I really appreciate it. I really, really appreciate it, bud. The super chat was awesome, dude. Holy moly, that's an awesome one, Julio. Thanks so much. Why is my thing not on live chat? There you go. Yeah, so that's what I'm going to do, guys, for that other channel. It's going to be tools that I buy, and I'll give the link and everything once I go. Yeah, holy super chat, I know. That's awesome. We want a certain way of doing it like your channel. Yeah. Right on. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm not going to accept anything for free. So, and I'll buy things that I think will work, because then my second channel is Pornhub. Dude, if your channel's Pornhub, that's flipping awesome, man. You're rich. I wish I was rich. Who made the channel Pornhub and who owns that? Because they were super smart. All right. Okay. So, I'm going to go to the next thing I have. Let's see. What else do I got in my thing? So this is another good one too. I had an interesting question, and it's kind of hard for me to fathom this question, but someone asked, so I released my video yesterday on a carrier package unit that had, it was blowing the fuse, right? And then it had a bad disconnect switch. If you guys haven't already watched, check it out, but you'll see it on my channel. What I ended up finding was that the line 1 disconnect blade was not engaging properly, and it was causing the you know, that leg of power to overheat, and it caused the fuse to blow. So someone had asked me, why did I change all 3 fuses? Okay, and here's my logic, and this is a hard one because I thought this was just common sense, but maybe it's not. My thing is that if you're ever working with 3-phase power and you have one of those fuses go bad, it's always best to change all 3 fuses, because the other fuse in that circuit could have been weakened. Okay, so remember, one leg of that power, if you've got a 3-phase system, some of the components in there might be single phase, right? So I had a 3-phase package unit, but my condenser fan motors were single phase. So at least 2 of those fuses are always going to be used at the same time. And so my logic is that if we blow one of the fuses, there's a chance we could have damaged the element in the other fuse, okay? So that's why I go with that logic of changing all 3 fuses. Plus, it's just good practice. The same thing, like, why do you change a capacitor on a condenser fan motor when there was nothing wrong with the capacitor? Because it's just cheap insurance, okay? Same thing with the fuse. It's just cheap insurance, okay? Now, if that fuse costs $9,000 or something, you know, we may give the customer the option, but you know, when you're talking about a $6 fuse, it's best to go ahead and change 3. And in all honesty, guys, when I change fuses, like for instance, in that unit, I always leave 3 extra fuses too. So when I sold that disconnect to the customer, they got charged for 3 fuses that I installed, and then they got charged for 3 extra fuses that were left inside there. And what that does for me is that basically is helping the next technician to make sure that he has those 45 amp fuses that I needed for that. Because what happens if he doesn't? I like to have extra fuses. So whenever I sell fuses, I always sell an extra set too and put them in the disconnect just to help the next guy. So exactly, change them all. Okay, let me see what else I got going in here. You posted the video recently working on those old Carrier units. Have you worked on any of the new units with the motor master for the condenser fan motors or the VFD drives for the blowers? Yeah, I've worked on a lot of the 2-speed Carrier units that have the VFD drive for the blower. I haven't worked on any of the new that have that giant axial fan. I've been seeing pictures and videos on Facebook where they don't have a belt-driven blower motor for the indoor. They have that funky looking DC axial fan or whatever. I don't know what they call that. I've never worked on the ones that have motor masters for the condenser fan motors. My units usually aren't that fancy. But Title 24 is our energy code here in in California, and Title 24 requires anything over 5 tons to be a 2-speed indoor blower motor, basically. So we have to have a VFD drive on it. So we have that. Thank you very much for that super chat, Dallas. Thank you so much, man. Really appreciate it. So yeah, I have worked on those 2-speed ones, and those 2-speed ones can be a pain in the butt, man. Sometimes I had one the other day. I'm trying to piece together a video, but I had one where the customer complaint, I don't do any work on the VRF stuff, but there's some other great YouTube channels that do VRF stuff. So I wish I could, but I don't. So, Mr. Johnny Boy, mean direct drive. VFD stands for drive. Here we go again. What did I say? What did I say? VFD drive? I'm sorry. I'm a tard when, or I shouldn't even say that. That was impolite. I'm silly when it comes to that stuff. I gotcha, man. I gotcha. I know you're just messing with me too. Can I post one of my special Amazon links for your copper tube benders? Yeah, I'll give you guys Amazon links. If you guys, I'm going to make a point too, you guys. One of the things that I'm trying not to blow this channel up with advertisements and different things. Obviously, I have Spoilin as a sponsor, but I'd really appreciate it if you guys pay attention in the show notes. If you guys are interested in any of the tools or stuff like that, I always post little Amazon links down inside the show notes, and those Amazon links are typically like affiliate links. So I do get like 2% or something like that of the sale, or some silly thing or something like that. So if you guys do want to support, that's a good way. If you guys are going to be buying anything from Amazon, is just use one of those affiliate links. Interesting thing is that if you guys are going to be doing shopping on Amazon too, if you just use my affiliate link for whatever tool, you don't even have to buy the tool. If you just go to the Amazon page, click on that link, and it takes you to that tool, and then you search for something totally different, I also get like credit for that too. So that will help me out. Adam, hit me. Which tubing benders are you talking about, bud? Can I post one of my special Amazon links for copper tube benders? Because I'll have to look and see. I have some special old school tube benders that I really like to use. But send me an email, Adam, and I'll talk to you more about it and get you what you want. How about RPMs? That drives me nuts. Revolutions per minute. Yeah. All right, can I explain line sizing, how length impacts line sizing, etc.? So line sizing, the biggest thing about line sizing is understanding that we're sizing refrigeration lines for a couple different things. But one of the biggest things, there's a couple factors that come into line sizing, but oil return is a big one, and proper refrigerant velocity. Okay, and then obviously you want enough of that refrigerant coming back to cool the compressor. So the longer the line size, just like duct work, okay, if you run 600 feet of 10-inch flex duct, you're not going to be able to push the same CFM through that ductwork by the time you get to the end. So you obviously have to go bigger and then reduce down towards the end. So as you're doing refrigerant line sizing, you're going to have to change the size of the lines to compensate, to make sure that we get the right velocity, the refrigerant flow running through the line. And then you also want to make sure that we get the proper oil return, which is affected by the velocity. I would highly suggest that you guys do some reading on refrigeration line sizing. Heatcraft has some great information on it. If you go to heatcraftrpd.com, that's ralphpauldavid.com. So heatcraftrpd.com, go to their literature section and you can download their refrigeration. They have a refrigeration manual in there. It has some great information. The other thing, and I've posted links to it actually in the show notes of this video, is going to be links to the Copeland manual where it has great line sizing information. And hold on. The Copeland manual is the guy right here. It's the Copeland, and I have links to this in the show notes, but it's the Copeland refrigeration manual. And I actually happen to have it opened up to part 4, which is system design. And this is when I was going through refrigeration school, and this still works to this day, but it's an old school book, but it basically has fitting length, teaches you to size for, you basically, it tells you how to engineer a system to to find out the right size lines based off of pressure drop, fitting length, oil return, all that different stuff. And it's a great, great book. So in the show notes of this video, once I post it tonight, so once we get done with the live stream, there'll be a video that posts on YouTube. And if you look in the show notes, there's a link to that manual. That's a great manual to learn how to properly size lines too. But like I said, you can go to heatcraftrpd.com and they have some engineering bulletins that you can download from there. So I would highly suggest you guys do some research and go to Sporlin's website, go to Heatcraft's website, Cold Zone's website. All those guys have great information on all kinds of cool stuff. You can find out all kinds of technical documents, all the different controls manufacturers. Just go to their website and look at the documents section. There's tons of great information on there. So yeah, traps are a huge thing. Risers, inverted traps, everything affects the oil return. And it's not just as simple on some of the small reach-in coolers. We don't go crazy with designing systems properly. You might just throw a T in there and not really worry about a riser coming off the line that the T's on and different things like that. But, once you get into the bigger stuff, that's when the oil return really, really becomes a big issue. And a lot of times too, you start to have, and I don't really deal with the big refrigeration stuff, but you'll get into oil separators and there's all kinds of fancy stuff. And, sizing, especially if you have remote condensers, sizing the liquid drain coming back, everything, it really gets kind of technical. So, let's see what else I'm missing here. Guys, if I'm missing questions, just don't hesitate to throw them back down in the bottom, okay? So, never put copper in a fuse holder. Yeah, that's a real common sense thing that I would think people wouldn't do, but apparently I see that stuff on Facebook. Sometimes I wonder if it's fake, but I know some of you guys have probably found some weird stuff where someone's taken a 7/8 inch pipe and put it in a 60 amp fuse holder or something like that. That's so dangerous. So, Mr. Johnny Boy, you said, Chris, there's an oil pump inside the AC motor to keep it cool. That's not necessarily true. When we're dealing with our scroll compressors and when we're dealing with our hermetically sealed air conditioning compressors, a lot of times those are refrigerant cooled compressors. Especially even on the semi-hermetics too. Yes, they do have an oil pump, but the oil pump isn't necessarily to keep it cool. The oil pump's to keep the components inside the compressor lubricated. So while I do believe that bringing oil in there is going to reduce the heat, we still do have high temperatures. And, that's why sometimes on some of the bigger semi-hermetic compressors, they have head fans that go on the top of the heads to try to move air across them too. You really run into some problems with semi-hermetic compressors when you don't have a condenser fan motor drawing air across the compressor too. And that's one of the things on the smaller stuff that I deal with. Typically my condenser fan motor blows across the head of the compressor, so that helps to cool it. But no, refrigerant definitely cools the compressor. That suction gas coming back is very, very important. And that's why they want you to have, proper superheats. What does Copeland say? Like minimum, is it 20 degrees? I think Copeland might say minimum 20 degrees or something like, they want a certain superheat coming back, and that's because they don't want you to start damaging the internals of the compressor. You need that suction gas to come back to cool that compressor. So, all right, let's see what else. Every 20 foot, you're talking about, Honeywell Gentron products. Oh, there you go. So Ralph says that the Honeywell Gentron properties software is free on Honeywell Refrigerants website. So that's good. There's all kinds of great information on there. So, okay, so Let's see. I don't know what I'm missing there. I see some things going on here. What's the rule of thumb if P-traps on suction lines when doing vertical run? Yeah, I think it is 20 feet, Robbie G. I think someone just said that. So, you've never increased the line size due to long length, whatever ton the heat load for whatever the valves come on from manufacturer 3/8 to 3/4. Yeah, and see, that's the problem, telecom HVAC. You have to be careful because, you know, on the smaller stuff, and there was a time that I did that all the time too, but you can't always just look at the line size on the condensing unit and assume that that's the correct line size. If you have longer runs, you may need to reduce that and or increase that. The risers may need to be bigger or smaller. It depends. For proper oil return, it really, really makes a difference. And especially if your evaporator is below the condensing unit. If your evaporator is below the condensing unit, you have some problems because it's going to be hard to get that oil back up to that compressor once the oil's gotten trapped inside the evaporator. So that's when the line sizing really comes into play. Now, I will say that on, you know, some of the smaller like 2-ton, 3-ton Heatcraft condensing units, it's sometimes it can be safe to just go with what line size is on the condensing unit. You can probably get away with it, but you're kind of guessing a little bit there, especially if you have a longer run. That's when you really, really need to start paying attention to. And if you actually read the Heatcraft manual for that Heatcraft condensing unit, it actually tells you what you need to size the lines for. So even if it has a 7/8 inch suction line coming off the condensing unit, that doesn't necessarily mean that you should be running that entire line set in 7/8. So, and yes, I understand that, you know, it may work for most of the time, but there's going to be those few times it doesn't, and that's when there's going to be a problem. So, all right, let's see. Let me see what else I'm missing. Really appreciate you guys coming in here. Let's throw, if you guys got more questions, throw some stuff in here. Caps lock, I'll try to get to it. Let's see what else. I saw a 40-foot run on a walk-in, and they tried to upsize it from 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch. Yeah, who knows, man. For the carrier with the blown fuse. Nah, Chris Lopez. I kind of covered that in the beginning. I usually don't use a mega ohm meter. There's been a lot of research, and if you actually go to Copeland has a technical bulletin where they talk about a mega ohm meter not being a great resource for a one-time diagnosis. And the way that I read the technical bulletin says that Copeland, especially on their scroll compressors, recommend that if you're going to use a mega ohm meter, that you use it over a period of time and you compare measurements each time to come to a conclusion that you have a compressor that's going bad. Copeland doesn't recommend using a one-time mega ohm meter, putting it on there and saying this compressor tests bad. And like I mentioned in the beginning of the stream, because mega ohm meters can also pick up moisture in the system. So if you have a moisture-laden system or a system that has a lot of moisture in the refrigerant, then you can get some false readings thinking that you have a bad compressor or the insulation's going bad, when in fact you just have a lot of moisture in the system. And so sometimes you can still save that compressor by cleaning the moisture up, and you don't necessarily need to change the compressor. So I'm not saying that someone is wrong for using a mega ohm meter. It's just not my cup of tea. I don't even own one. I don't have one in my vehicle. None of my techs have them either, because we typically don't utilize a mega ohm meter. I do agree that a mega ohm meter could be great for testing certain things, but I don't have the need for it. So, all right, let's see. Try generalized is a troll. Yeah, here, I'll take care of him right now. Boom. He should be taken care of. And his messages should be gone. So, all right, let's see what else. I appreciate you guys pointing that out. Yeah, I don't think Justin's in here tonight. I know he popped in the beginning, but I think he's on vacation if I remember right. So if you guys see anything else you need me to kick out of here, let me know. So how would you clean the moisture out of a moisture-laden system? Filter dryers. So lots and lots of filter dryer changes. If you have a really, really bad system that has a lot of moisture, that's going to be the best way. Obviously, removing the refrigerant, putting in good filter dryers, if at all possible, starting with new refrigerant. But sometimes on the big giant systems, you can't do that. So you just got to go in there and change filter dryers on a regular. And the filter dryer is really going to be the only thing that's going to take moisture out of your system. So let's see what else. Unbalanced, please explain. We had a compressor failure under warranty and told the manufacturer the line set equivalent length, and they sent the separator. I don't know what you're asking me. I think you're having a conversation with someone else. All right. How would you clean the moisture? Okay, so I answered that one. Yeah, actually on vacation, Mr. Johnny Boy, right on. How do you clean the evaporator? What do you mean? If there's oil in the evaporator, how do you clean the evaporator? You can do it? Or do you mean rinse the evaporator off with cleaner, like the outside? Give me some context and I'll answer that one. Yeah, sorry I let that guy go on so long. I didn't even realize he was giving crap, so I just got everything out of there. So I don't know who that guy was. Yeah, that's what I thought. And no, I know Justin wasn't supposed to be in here, so. Moisture in a 410A system, depending on the severity, can be impossible, and the unit is trash. It definitely can be hard to get a lot of moisture out, especially. So, you know, the biggest thing is the polyester oil, the POE oil. It really grabs that moisture and it doesn't want to let it go. So, you know, it can be really hard. Even with filter dryers, getting the moisture out of that POE oil can be a nightmare. So if you can do an oil change or if you can do a compressor change, it just depends. So, right on. All right. This was a long time ago, but I remember dehydrate in system and change the oil if you can. Yeah, but dehydration is not necessarily going to take care of moisture in the oil. It might help a little bit. But yeah, your filter dryer is really what's going to pull the moisture out. So moisture in a 410A system, depending on the spit. Yeah, I see that one. Okay, so Tom Kendrick, you're new. Most of this is Greek to me, so I was wondering, where did you get this much knowledge? Trade school, college, practical experience. Tom, you named them all right there. I grew up in the trade working with my father. I learned a lot from him. I learned good things and bad things from him. I'm not talking crap about him. He was just an old school technician that had a lot of old school ways. So he taught me a lot of the old school ways, and a lot of those ways didn't make sense to me. So I started to investigate on my own and then realize, hey, this isn't right. Or the questions that I would ask him, and I would say, why does this do this? And he would just say, just because it does, you know, because he didn't have the answer. I also went to trade school, and then I've also been doing this for a few years. I think it's 17 years that I've been doing this. So there's definitely a lot of other guys that have more experience than me, but you know, I just have a limited amount of knowledge in the little sector of the industry that I work in. So, okay. Why in Colombia use ductless instead of duct? A lot of other countries use ductless, right? I mean, everybody uses it all over the world. The United States is just the one country that doesn't use a lot of ductless stuff. So, Ted is the only okay, so let's see what else. Do myself and my dad still butt heads on techniques? No, we don't. My dad doesn't really come in the field anymore. He's more in the office, and we had a hard time for a long time because of my own stubbornness and just being a stupid kid, and me not dealing with things and me always challenging him. But I kind of got over that and learned that I was being an asshole. And him and I have a really good relationship now. You know, we kind of stay in our separate ways. You know, he runs the office and I run the field, and we still help each other out. But no, we don't butt heads about service and different things anymore. No, not at all. Have I ever replaced the 2-pole contactor with a 3-pole on those 3-phase units? Yeah, I have. I have had to. But you got to be cautious because some units, they use a 2-pole contact. So some manufacturers are just being cheap, okay? And they use a 2-pole contactor and they leave one leg energized all the time. But you also want to be cautious because some manufacturers will also use the leg of power that's going to that compressor to try to keep some energy going to that compressor to help act as kind of a crankcase heater. But a lot of times you'll see that on the residential units that have like a shunt contactor. But you will see it on some commercial package units too. So you want to be cautious about changing out a 2-pole contactor on a 3-phase system if the unit doesn't have crankcase heaters. Now, if your compressors have crankcase heaters on them, then there's really no reason why you can't change to a 3-pole contactor. So yes, I have done it on some, but you just got to be cautious because some manufacturers are using that extra leg as kind of and it's really kind of hard to understand. I've read it a bunch, but I've just basically read it, and that's my understanding is they use that leg going to the compressor all the time as kind of a semi-quasi crankcase heater. So, let's see. And a bubbling sight glass, adding charge doesn't clear sight glass or change pressures. Josh Klassen, you said, okay, so Josh, what would I check if you have 3 inches of thin ice on the head of the compressor on a walk-in freezer and a bubbling sight glass? Adding charge doesn't clear the sight glass or change pressures. Well, Josh, the real question is what does your evaporator look like? Is your evaporator covered in ice? Because if your evaporator isn't covered in ice and you have proper airflow going through your evaporator, then ice on the compressor isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just an indication that your refrigerant line is below the temperature, basically, or the dew point, and you've got moisture and it's starting to freeze. You got to remember that refrigeration line coming from a walk-in freezer is going to be, if your box is at -10, that refrigerant temperature is probably going to be -20 inside there or something. So that's the gas, the suction gas temperature inside the line. That doesn't necessarily mean that your line's going to be at -20, but so it's not necessarily a bad thing to have ice on the head of your compressor or on a refrigeration line, as long as you don't have too low of superheat and as long as your evaporator is not iced up. But I wouldn't try adding gas to the unit until you know that there's no ice on the evaporator. Now, if there's no ice on the evaporator and you've still got bubbles in your sight glass, it's pretty good indication that you're low on charge. But remember, a sight glass is only a window into the system at that particular point in the system. So I would highly suggest, depending on if it's a really long run, making sure that you don't have any kind of a restriction before that sight glass, because you could have a restriction in the filter dryer causing the sight glass to flash. And you're adding gas thinking you're trying to get the sight glass to clear up, but the filter dryer is not letting the refrigerant through. So you want to be cautious about just clearing a sight glass without knowing how the system's operating properly. Hopefully that answers your question. If you have more questions about that, feel free to send me an email to hvacrvideos@gmail.com. So, all right, what else? Mr. Johnny Boy, this might be a stupid question, but does two-phase exist? There's split phase, but then there's single phase and three phase. So I don't think two phase is what you think. No, single phase, and then there's split phase, and then there's three phase. But split phase is more or less, I'm not super smart, but if I understand split phase, before I open my mouth on that one, I'm not going to open it. I'm going to do some research on that before I put this on the internet. Can I do a YouTube bending video one of these days? Yeah, I don't mind doing that one. I love doing tubing bendings. So how do you determine that there's moisture in the system? Liquid line filter dryers might have a huge pressure drop if they're full of moisture. You can have sight glasses that have moisture indicators on them, but the best way to test for moisture in the system is to do a proper acid test. Well, that's another way, is to do an acid test on the system to see if you have acid in there. And then also, that's where a mega ohm meter might come into play. If you're using a mega ohm meter on a regular basis and you are constantly testing the system, then you might start to see some ratings that go up and elevate, and then you could think, okay, yeah, we might have moisture in the system, and or you might have damage to your compressor. So, but the easiest way is just to use a sight glass in the system. And the sight glass have like this special little paper that reacts to moisture in the system. So that's the easiest way. Okay, hopefully I'm answering your guys' questions here. David Lara, you said at a fertilizer plant cleaning a 10-ton heat pump. I bet you it smelled like shit at the fertilizer plant, huh? Can you use the H10 on R32? No, you don't want to use a heated diode leak detector on you want to use a combustible gas leak detector on R32, I believe. That's a good question, Superior, but I'm pretty confident that you want to use a combustible gas leak detector on R32. I don't think you want to use a normal leak detector. So, two phase is a thing of the past, yeah. So, can you explain dew versus bubble on a PT chart? Dew point is what you use when you're trying to figure out superheat, and bubble point is what you're trying to use when you're trying to figure out subcooling. That's the easiest way. Someone in here the other day sent me something to say. I don't remember which one of you guys sent it to me, but you sent me an email with a little silly way to remember it. And if you say duper heat, so dew point for superheat, bubble point for subcooling. So, how does moisture get into the system if it's pressurized? By improper refrigeration practices. Refrigerant leaks on the low side when the system pulls into a vacuum. People working on the system and not properly evacuating the system. People installing components when there's a lot of moisture in the air outside. Moisture gets in the system, and then they charge it up and they don't pull a proper vacuum, and then the system's contaminated with moisture. Moisture can lead to all kinds of problems in the system. It can start to degrade the system. If it's the older refrigerants, it can actually turn the refrigerant into an acid and the oil into an acid, especially with the chlorinated refrigerants. When you mix moisture and the chlorinated refrigerants, it would really, really turn a lot of acid stuff inside there. So it can cause all kinds of problems with that. Javier, thank you very much, man. I really appreciate it. So there is a link. I don't know. How does moisture? Okay, so I answered that one. Did your dad use a halide torch? Yeah, my dad did use a halide torch. I used to have one around here. I tried to use it one time and it looked really stupid to me. So then I got the electronic out and found the leak. So, should a dehumidifier be used in a walk-in cooler to reduce moisture? Mr. Johnny Boy. So, I mean, there's some situations where people might use a dehumidifier, but if the system was designed properly in a walk-in cooler, so I have a perfect example. I got a service call as a second opinion because a construction company had their own refrigeration guy and they built a bakery, and all of her cakes, when she would put them into the walk-in to cool down, they would start drooping because of all the moisture inside the walk-in. And what happened was they didn't size the evaporator coil properly. And the evaporator coil wasn't reducing or removing the humidity from the box. It was oversized, essentially. So they needed some longer run times to try to remove the humidity from it. And they ended up adding a humidifier. I gave them my opinions on, having the equipment properly sized and then going that route, but they wanted to go ahead and put a humidifier. So as far as I know, they added a humidifier to the system. But a thing about a humidifier is it's also going to add a load to the system too. So, I mean, you got to be cautious about that stuff. And then also you got to think, where are you going to put that air? And I mean, it's a whole thing. So, I mean, some people will use humidifiers in certain instances, but it's best if you can just size the equipment properly. So, all right, Bill Burnett. Yeah, I see what you're saying. There's no two-phase, single or three-phase. Yeah, that's my thinking on that one. So can you give us an update on your friend that his house burnt down? Oh, Ralph. So that was Zach Ciota. Zach has the YouTube channel HVACR Shop Talk. You guys can Google it. He actually just put an update on his channel. He's doing a little bit better. He does have insurance. He's, they're doing okay. So they're still kind of just, I think the last update I read said that he was they were looking at some rental homes to move into temporarily while they rebuild. They're just kind of moving along. So a lot of the HVAC community, the YouTube community kind of helped out and, announced things and got some people to help him out a little bit and, helped him just to get him some cash to kind of get on his feet to help. My thing was to get his kids some toys and stuff like that. And, because they do have insurance and, they're going to get back on their feet and stuff, but they're doing okay from my understanding. So, but yeah, again, that's Zach Ciota with HVACR Shop Talk. So if you just Google or go to YouTube and look up HVACR Shop Talk Ralph, you'll see his channel and his update. So he has another great channel. Do you know too much about it or what's my opinion? I don't have a bad thing to say about the union, Teddy. I would just say, for instance, here in Southern California, the union's not super strong. So, it's a little more difficult to get into the union, and you want to pick the right company or you could be out of work soon, because they may be one of the companies that lays you off. Or basically you'll go sit at the hall, right, and wait for someone else to call you up. But I don't have anything bad to say about the union. I mean, to each their own. Some people choose to go union. Just here in Southern California, the union's not very strong. So, if you want to do government work, you got to be union or be a company that pays prevailing wages. But that's what majority of the unions are going to be doing is government work, school work. And then large jobs, but you're not going to see union companies working in restaurants and stuff like that very much in the small stuff that I do. So, but I got nothing bad to say about unions. So, let's see. Submarines run below. Sorry guys, if I'm missing some things in here. Hopefully I'm getting all to your guys' questions here. So, No, nothing bad. Knock it off. I have nothing against unions. Y'all can talk whatever you want, and I'm not trying to censor you guys in here. So, good for you guys that are union. I'm happy for you. I don't think there's anything wrong with the union. One of the things that I think is a big problem, is we don't train people like we used to. Back in the day, way before my time, people went through a proper union apprenticeship and they worked for 3 years. They went to school for 3 years. They apprenticed, they did everything that they needed to. And when they came out of that apprenticeship, they were strong technicians. Nowadays, I feel like we need to get back to that training. I feel like we have a lot of people that just learn really quick by watching YouTube videos. And guys, I know that's ironic, right? But I don't make these YouTube videos to teach everybody. I make these YouTube videos to help people that know what they're doing or are trying to learn. These are not here to teach you guys how to do everything, because you need proper education. You need a proper apprenticeship, and you can't learn everything from YouTube. You need to do some book work and, obviously learn from your senior techs and, mentors and stuff. So, but I think that the education that people used to get from the union was great. And I feel like it's not as strong anymore, at least here in Southern California. So, but it's also not strong on the private side either. I mean, I feel like education in general, I'm making a point that I really appreciated the education and wish that we had that education that the unions used to give. I wish we had that more, because we need more of those techs. The unions kind of fizzled off in the 70s here, pretty much. The 80s, they were getting really, really smaller and smaller, and then 90s, they were almost non-existent, except for government work. And it's kind of sad, because their representation was good for some people. So, yeah, I know exactly. My bad, bud. Yeah, it's not very pure. No, California's a meth capital right now. It's not a coke capital anymore. Right on. All right, let's see what else. Anyone know how to solder aluminum condenser coil which has little leaking? Yeah. I would Google search solder weld, bud. Solder Weld has some interesting videos. Brian Orr, also on HVAC School, has some interesting videos on soldering aluminum coils using solder weld products. So, gentlemen, let's see. Back then, our parents and teachers gave us a lot of discipline and we became smart. That's true, Mr. Johnny Boy. So, Ronald Reagan, yeah. All right. Okay, so on a low pressure system with the system shut down and the condenser goes back into a vacuum, then you would see moisture too. Oh, okay, I did. All right, gentlemen, I think we're going to wrap this up unless you guys have any more questions to throw in here. I'll give it another couple minutes, see if you guys have any more questions. If not, we're probably going to wrap this up. Let's see. Should you calibrate micron gauges? There's really not much calibration you can do to a micron gauge. You just clean it with alcohol, is my understanding. Meth capital causes everyone from LA is moving to the IE. Yeah, my bad, dude. That's where I'm at, too. The IE. I'm in Riverside, Harupa Valley, buddy. It's the meth capital here right now. I could go out down the street into the hills, and there's a freaking homeless encampment up there. So, new compressor, new TXV, superheating, subcooling, good, but temperature doesn't go below 20. What else can you check? Jess Verk. It's hard to say, bud, without being there, but you need to make sure that your compressor has good valves, your suction line is insulated properly, and send me an email. We could talk about it more to hvacrvideos@gmail.com. I can answer that a little bit more in an email. So knock it off. When will I go live again? I try to do these every Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Same bat channel, same bat time. So let's see what else here. Fieldpiece or Testos? I don't have any experience with Testo products, so I'm not going to talk crap about them. David, I like Fieldpiece products, and I've used them for a very long time. But, that's just my preference. A lot of guys like the Testo stuff. I just never really got on that bandwagon, so I'm a Fieldpiece person. What insulation is used in a walk-in cooler? That's a good question. The walls are usually about 4 inches thick. I don't know what type of insulation. Oh, well, they use a polyurethane foam inside the walls, but I don't know the R value of the insulation. So, okay. In my recent video, what did I use to straighten the fins? I used a fin comb set. I will make sure that there is a link to the fin comb set, the straightening combs, that I use. You can get them from Supco. You can get them from Yellow Jacket. Everybody has them. Just go to your local supply house. They have them behind the counter. Fin combs are usually $20-$30, but I'll put an Amazon link in the show notes of this video for the fin combs that I use too. So, my questions keep disappearing. Nathan Peterson. I don't know what your questions are, bud. Nathan, I don't know. I don't see your questions there, bud. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if Nightbot's disappearing you or what. If you have something that you want to send me an email to, send me an email to hvacrvideos@gmail.com. So, yeah, exactly, Teddy Jones. What do you think about R22 substitutes, Rocky Mountain HVACR? Dude, personally, I don't use any R22 substitutes at this moment. I'm still using R22. I don't know which ones I'm going to go with. I know that Ralph from Honeywell's in here. And you know, he's probably got some good alternatives. I just don't use them myself. And I'm going to post Ralph's email in here right now because Ralph's always willing to answer questions and give guidance. So Honeywell has a lot of products that they would recommend as an R22 substitute. I would probably say I would go with 407C myself if I had to, but I haven't used an R22 substitute really. So here's Ralph from Honeywell. This is his email address. You guys are free to email him and he will give you all the information in the world about some of the R22 substitutes. But I would say, in my opinion, most of the R22 substitutes are only going to work properly and most efficiently with polyester oil. So if you have mineral oil or alkybenzene oil, I would be a little suspect about putting some of the R22 substitutes in there. I know some of the manufacturers say that the R22 substitutes will work okay, but if you read the fine print, it says be cautious if you have high pressure drops, be cautious if you have long line set runs and different things like that. So I'm not talking crap about anybody's products, but I'm just saying it's best practice to have polyester oil in your system if you're going to use an R22 substitute. A lot of the manufacturers will add different refrigerants, flammable components to the system, and it's nothing to be afraid of. They add small trace amounts of flammable components to try to make the oil miscible with, I think miscible is the right word, so that way it'll actually travel with the refrigerant. Because the problem with a lot of the R22 substitutes, such as 407C, is that the oil won't return to the compressor with the refrigerant very well. So that's why they want you to have polyester oil. That's if you had mineral oil. So, but yeah, feel free to email Ralph. He'll answer any questions about the substitutes that you want. 407C, yeah, so, okay. If I take a long time to type a question, it automatically get deleted. Oh, that I don't know. So there's absolutely no reason for 410A anymore except for politics. Yeah. Yeah, and it definitely depends on the application, just like Ralph said. Guys, remember, I am not an expert in everything, guys. I just have a little bit of common sense, and I just share the little bit of knowledge that I have. So, guys, any more questions you guys have, send me an email to hvacrvideos@gmail.com. Like I said, I plan on releasing the video, How We Live the HVACR Life, the next video in my series, How We Live the HVACR Life, and that's kind of a little series I'm doing with my wife. This one's going to be about my mental problems and my wife's health problems and how those affected us and just kind of how we went through things, okay? So tentatively, as long as I get that edited down, it's going to be released Wednesday, and then I'll have another normal video as long as everything goes good, normal educational video on Friday, and then we'll be doing this live stream again on Monday, okay? I really appreciate it, and I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up, guys. Thanks again for coming in here, and I'm going to go ahead and hit the bumper music and transition out of here. And let's see if I can do this right.